If you haven't met me before, my name is Wensly. I do student ministry here at Two Rivers Church, and I too went on that mission trip, and then it was so much fun. I mean, I could just be up here for a whole hour, telling you about all the memories that we made on that mission trip in St. Louis. But that's not what I'm here for. So I want to kick off this morning with one simple question, and the question is, do you remember the first lie that you've ever told? All right, raise your hands. Do you remember the first lie you ever told? Y'all lying. Y'all just a bunch of liars. Y'all lying, okay? I remember my first lie. I remember the first lie that I ever told. It was in second grade in elementary school. I was sitting in class with my best friends, Tony and BJ. They were like my road dogs, okay, my homies, right? And we're sitting there, and one of the things that I strive for in school, in elementary school, and middle school, and high school, is I really wanted to be the class clown. Like, I really wanted people to think I was funny. And so, to that day in class, I was thinking, what can I do to make people laugh? Like, how do I become the comedian today? And so, I thought it would be hilarious if I rose my hand and I told my teacher, Miss Bledsoe, that I wanted to pull a card. Y'all know what that is, right? Like pulling a card, you know what I mean? Like you pull the first card, it's a warning. You pull the second card, then then you get in trouble, and then so on and so forth. Or what if I rose my hand and told Miss Bledsoe that I wanted to pull a card? And so I did. I was thinking to myself there, I was like, okay, I can do this. This is for it all. I'm going to be funny after this. I'm going to be funny. Building up the courage, right, to do this. And eventually I do it. I raise my hand. I'm like, Miss Bledsoe? She's like, Wensly? I'm like, I would like to pull a card. And y'all, the crowd goes wild. My friends are like dying laughing. BJ is like, oh, fist bump. And Tony's like, oh, you're hilarious. Why would you ask that? That's crazy, right? And so they're laughing, and the moment passes. And Miss Bledsoe even, she chuckles a little bit. She's like, no, Wensly, you can't do that. And the moment passes. So I think to myself, well, that was great. Feel good, right? But you know, the show must go on, right? Like a comedian just can't just do one show. He has to get back on the stage, right? And so I thought to myself, what would be funnier than asking to pull a card? Well, asking twice in a row. And so I rose my hand. I said, Miss Bledsoe. She said, Wensly. I said, I would like to pull a card. And everybody goes wild again, y'all. Like, they think it's hilarious. What? You asked twice? That's crazy. Why would you ask to pull a card? No one does that. They're laughing. I feel like the man. And at this point, Miss Bledsoe's face is like, look, you're becoming an interruption. She's like, no, Wensly, put your hand down. And don't ask that again. So I put my hand down. I'm thinking, oh, wow, everybody going to be talking about this there in the playground. You know, like, man, I'm going to be the funniest guy today, right? And I think to myself, you know, I got to do it one more time, y'all. I got to do it one more time. Like, I'm a comedian, okay? The show must go on. And so I do. I raise my hand. I'm like, Miss Bledsoe? She's like, Wensly? I'm like, I would like to pull a card. And a couple of my friends begin to laugh and choke on. Miss Bledsoe's like, no, actually, yes. Wensly, get up right now and go pull a card. My heart sinks to my bottom of my stomach because I was a good kid. I never pulled a card a day in my life, okay? Like, I never. My heart sunk to the bottom of my stomach. I get up. I take 2 steps, and I'm like, Miss Bledsoe, can I stop? She's like, no, you cannot. I'm like, Miss Bledsoe, can I stop? She's like, get over there and pull a card. Everybody's like, ooh. You know, it's elementary school. Ooh, you in trouble. Ooh. I take a few more steps, I get to the, like right in front of the board where all the cards are, and I just bust out crying. I mean like those snotty tears, like those tears, my nose is running. I just bust out crying. In that moment, I realized for the first time that the words that come out of my mouth actually had a weight behind them. Because of the words that I spoke, I was going to have to pay consequences. And in this case, they weren't going to be good consequences. That's the conversation that we're having this morning. It's a conversation about the lies that come out of our mouths and the truth that we find in the character of God. It's the ninth commandment that God gives us. And y'all, this week has been rough. I've just been in this conviction chamber, just getting slapped left and right. But I'm like, I'm a liar, I'm a liar, I'm a liar. It's been hard. God has changed me for real. I feel like my eyes have been opened to this incredible attribute of the truth that we find in God. Do you know that God always tells the truth? Do you know that he is truth itself? That in him there is no deception, there is no falsehood, there is no dishonesty. He will not, cannot tell a lie. And us as his followers, as his creation, as his children, that's the life that God calls us into. A life that holds fast to truth, a life that is free of lies. That's the reason why he gave us these 10 commandments, to live free. God didn't give us these commands for shame or condemnation. He actually gave us these commands for us to know what it's like to be free. Literally. That's why he gave the nation of Israel these commands. The nation of Israel, these were people who spent decades as literal slaves. The people who ruled over them were extremely cruel, extremely powerful. They worked for free. They were beaten and even murdered for decades. Then God, being faithful to his people, he rescues them from bondage and sets them free of slavery into this new land. But even though they were no longer slaves of men, they fell quickly into being slaves of their own sin. And that's when God gives these commands. He gives us this picture of what it really looks like to live free. And in Exodus chapter 20, we're just going to read the ninth commandment together. It's Exodus chapter 20. It says, "You shall not give false testimony against your neighbor." You should never tell a lie, ever. Whatever comes out of your mouth should be truth and all of the truth. So help you what? God. Yeah, y'all know it. That's a familiar saying. That's what you say in the court system. But you know, this command, it expands far beyond that court system setting, right? We all know what it feels like to be lied to. We all know what it feels like to lie. If you don't want to admit that, you're lying. You're lying. And telling a lie is a big deal, y'all. That's just what I've learned. I know it's easy to think it's just a little old white lie. It ain't gonna hurt nobody, you know. I mean, I'm not holding the commandment, ninth commandment, but at least I ain't killing nobody. At least I ain't committing murder. Did you know the Bible says in Proverbs chapter 25, it says, a man who bears false witness against his neighbor is like a war club or a sword or a sharp arrow. When you lie on someone, it's like saying, I declare war against you. When we're lying, it's like saying, I'm more important than you, and so I'm okay with benefiting at your expense. It's like me saying, you and I, we're against each other. That's why, it's a big deal. That's why it made the list of the 10 Commandments. And I know I don't have to say it, but I'm going to say it anyways. Just because it's towards the end of the list doesn't mean it's less important. I know that's just kind of how our mind works. We do the most important things last, and we leave the things that are least important towards later. But that's just not how it works here. God views all sin as equally unjust and evil. And I don't think I need to convince you of that. I don't think I need to prove to you that lying is wrong. We all know the feeling we get when you figure out someone lied to you, whether it be anger or sadness or just confusion. We all know that nasty feeling we try to avoid when we lie to someone. Y'all know what I'm talking about. So if we all know that it's wrong, then why do we do it? Well, there are tons of reasons why we lie. There's tons of reasons why I lie, right? We lie to make ourselves look good. It's a prideful thing, right? So when we're telling a story, we're projecting this story that makes us look good. Oh no, I was the humble one in this situation. Oh no, I was strong. I never got mad. I didn't do anything wrong. We lie because we're insecure, right? We don't want people to find out we're actually struggling that bad. We bend the truth to dodge fault or guilt. We lie to cover our tracks. We lie because we don't want to be held accountable to our actions. And we're afraid of rejection, aren't we? We think if they really knew me, if they really knew who I was and what I've done, they wouldn't want me anymore. They wouldn't want to be my friend. They wouldn't want to be my husband or my wife. If they really knew what I did or I didn't do, then they'd fire me. So I'm just going to deceive them. I'm just going to lie to them and make them think something else. It's not true. I mean, these are the reasons why we lie, isn't it? To make people think we're something that we're not. And y'all, God hates it. He despises lying. In the book of Proverbs, chapter 6, there's a list of things that God hates. And guess what makes that list twice? Lying. Lying makes the list twice. Once it's listed as a lying tongue, and again it's listed as a false witness who breathes out lies. Because God views what comes out of our mouths as extremely valuable. The more I studied this command, the more I realized this is actually addressing our tongue. This is addressing what we say and how we say and even why we say what we say. And brothers and sisters, we have to lean in on this. We have to take this command seriously. We can't just say, oh, they're just words. We even made a song out of it. Sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Lie. That's a lie. That is a lie. We have to understand that we are held accountable to every word that comes out of our mouth. Jesus' friend began to understand this truth, and he wrote about it in Matthew chapter 12, verses 36, 37. It says this, I tell you, on the day of judgment, that's how you know it's serious. If anything starts off with on the day of judgment, that's how you know it's about to go down. I tell you, on the day of judgment, people will give account for every careless word they speak. For by your words you will be justified, and by your words you will be condemned. Jesus' brother put it like this in James chapter 3. So also, the tongue is a small member, yet it boasts of great things. How great a forest is set ablaze by such a small fire. In the tongue is a fire, a world of unrighteousness. The tongue is set among our members, staining the whole body, setting on fire the entire course of life, and set on fire by hell. For every kind of beast and bird, of reptile and sea creature can be tamed and has been tamed by mankind, but no one, no human being can tame the tongue. It is a restless evil full of deadly poison. It's a big deal. If we're not careful, if we're not intentional about what comes out of our mouth, our tongues can set a fire into the entire body. Not only our body, but the body of believers. Our tongues can be a restless evil, full of deadly poison. So what's a lie? I know I've been up here talking a little while now, and I haven't actually defined a lie, mainly because we all know what a lie is. We have common sense, but just for the sake of clarity, a lie is saying what is untrue and not saying what is all true. A lie is saying what is untrue and not saying what is all true. And we know there's room for mistakes here. Like, don't be calling people a liar just because they got the time wrong, okay? Like, what time is it? 10:05. It's 10:06. It's 10:02. You broke the ninth commandment. Obviously, there's a difference in line with malintent versus just a simple mistake. We know that. But for the most part, lying is saying what is untrue and not saying what is all true. And let me tell you something. Every word counts. If you're taking notes, I would write that down. Every word counts. Every time you say you'll be there and you're 20 minutes late, that's me. I'm always late. That's me. Every text message, every email, every post you put on social media, every word counts. And we all do it. If you don't believe you're a liar yet, prepare yourself. Here's a list. These are just examples of lying. Broken promises. So saying you're going to do something and not doing it or doing the opposite. That's lying. Plagiarism. Making up stories. Saying things that happened in those stories but that didn't actually happen, big or small. Exaggerating. Minimizing. Deception, lies of omission. That's the whole not saying what is all true part. That's talking about something and saying some of what happened, but not all of what happened, holding back information. That's lying. So I know what y'all thinking. I get it. I'm a liar. I get it. I'm a liar. So how do we actually stop lying? How do we actually keep this command to not lie and walk in truth? Well, let me say this. If you think you're going to walk out of here and not struggle with deception and lying, you're in for a rude awakening. The enemy wants to steal, kill, and destroy. And some of you are going to struggle with deception before you even leave the parking lot. It's a battle, but there are ways that God gives us to fight into war. So I want to give y'all 3 practical ways that we can use to walk into truth. There's 3 practical ways that we can use to walk into truth. The first way we can speak truth is through confession. Through the practice of confessing our sins. See, Jesus is the God of truth, but he's not only the God of truth. I know a lot of people want to believe that, but it's not true. Listen to this description of Jesus in John chapter 1, verse 14. And the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. Look, if you don't think that words are important, Jesus is literally described as the Word. That's who we're talking about. The Word is Jesus. And the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. And we have seen his glory. Glory as of the Son, as the only Son from the Father, full of what? Grace and truth. So because our God is not only full of truth, but full of grace, there's no reason to hide. Can I remind you of that this morning? Can I remind you that you have a God that forgives you? That's why it's called amazing grace. There's nothing you can do to get away from it. You have been forgiven. You have been washed by the blood of Christ. There's no reason to hide anymore. There's no reason to hide. Can I remind you of that this morning? So why not tell the truth? There's freedom in confession. You know that verse I read about how lies coming out of the tongue can ruin the whole entire body? Well, confession can do the exact opposite. James chapter 5, verse 16 says, therefore, confess your sins to one another and pray for one another that you may be healed. The prayer of a righteous person has great power as it is working. Look, I'm not saying go and tell everybody your deepest, darkest secret. But one person should know your deepest, darkest secret. And someone should always know what's really going on in your life. Isn't it exhausting living life alone? Go and get lunch or coffee with a trusted friend and just tell them what's going on. Is there anything more powerful against deception or hiding than bringing back into light what was once in darkness? See, there are a couple things that happen when you confess sin. One, you actually begin to experience freedom. And I'm sure you guys have felt this before. Like haven't you struggled with something on your own? Maybe for a season, weeks, months, maybe even years. Haven't you struggled with something and then you finally tell somebody? You finally tell a friend or a family member and you tell them and it's like the weight get lifted off of your shoulder. You immediately feel better because there's freedom in the confession of sin. There's freedom in it. And 2, it's contagious. It's like once one person says, I'm broken, everybody's like, oh, okay, I'm okay with being broken too. I know this to be true. In college, I joke about this all the time, how it took a while for me to graduate college. But really it's because I struggled in college. I struggled. I didn't know how to study. I wasn't prepared for it. I didn't want to go to class. And for the first 2.5 years of college, I just did it alone. I mean, I was restricted by it, lonely. And then one day, I got this email from the chancellor of UTC, and he told me that I was on academic probation. that if I didn't get my grades up in one semester, that I'd be kicked out. See, that night I went to my small group. It was a small group of me and like 6 other guys, and I just told them, I was like, dude, I don't know if I'm gonna make it. Like I think I'm gonna drop out. I think I'm gonna fail. You know what the reaction was? They were like, why didn't you tell me? Like, this is how you can do this. You do this, that. Why didn't you tell me? They weren't mad at me. They were like, oh my gosh, thank you. And they helped me. And out of nowhere, other guys rose their hand. They're like, I'm failing too. It's contagious. There's just this freedom that everybody in the room gets when you just confess your sin. And that's what I pray for our community, that we will be a community that is like well aware that we're not perfect. We're not perfect. And I pray that we would love to bear each other's burdens and just lift each other up. The second way that we can walk in truth is speaking truth in love and confrontation. Some of y'all happy to hear this one. Where my truth tellers at? I'm one of them. Like, I don't know about that whole confession of sin thing, but telling somebody like it is, oh, I can do that. I can do that. And of course, it should always be wrapped up in love and grace, but some people think that withholding truth from someone is actually caring for them. I want you to know that you're doing them a tremendous disservice by letting them run around in deception and in darkness. One of the most loving things you can do is sitting somebody down with kindness and in relationship and just saying, hey, I have to say something to you. Like, I have to confront this lifestyle that you've been living. This thing that you've been doing, it seems like it's been owning you. And I care about you too much to just let you keep doing it. I care about you too much to not say something. We got to practice speaking truth in confrontation. Galatians 6:1 says this, brothers, if any one of you is caught in any transgression, you who are spiritual should restore him in a spirit of gentleness. Keep watch on yourself, lest you be tempted. You know what's amazing? I did a little bit of homework. And the word confrontation is synonymous with restoring. The word confrontation is synonymous with restoring. Lastly, we got to be a people that keeps our promises. If we say we're going to do something, let's step into it and do it. Even though it's hard, even though you may not feel like it, even though you're thinking you want to change your mind, do it anyways. Promise keeping. It's simple, but hard to do at times, right? That's why I pray. I pray that we will be a people that fight to keep our word. That when we say we're going to do something, we actually do it. And you know why we keep our promises? Because God always keeps his promises. That's why we do it. And when we fall short, we go back to the top and we confess. Hey, I don't want to end this sermon with just a list of things to do. I want to end it with a prayer. prayer for courage and for faithfulness. Those two things. Will you bow your heads for me?